Just this once, Vanessa. Please. You know how much this means to Rebecca and me. My younger brother Aaron pleaded over the phone, his voice carrying that familiar wheedling tone I had heard countless times before. I sat in my office at Bright Ridge Media in Kansas City, Missouri, staring at the financial planning spreadsheets on my computer screen. At 31, I had worked hard to build my career as a senior marketing director and had been careful with the inheritance our grandmother left us 3 years ago. Aaron, on the other hand, had burned through his portion within 18 months. Aaron, we've been through this, I said, keeping my voice steady. I've already helped you pay off your credit cards twice this year. I cannot fund your wedding. It's not funding the whole thing, he snapped, his tone shifting from pleading to aggressive. I just need $50,000. That's nothing to you. Nothing to me? I gripped the phone tighter. $50,000 is not nothing to anyone. That's more than most people make in a year. But you have grandmother's money sitting there doing nothing. Rebecca's family expects a certain level of elegance. Her father owns 3 car dealerships, for crying out loud. I can't look cheap in front of them. The entitlement in his voice made my stomach turn. Our grandmother had specifically left us equal portions of her estate, with the hope we would use it wisely for our futures. She had worked as a seamstress for 40 years, saving every penny she could. The idea of throwing away $50,000 on one day seemed like a betrayal of everything she represented. Aaron, you're 28 years old. You have a job at Coleman Real Estate. Plan a wedding you can afford. You don't understand, he said, his voice rising. Rebecca's already sent out the invitations. We've booked the venue at the Fairmont. The deposits are non-refundable. Then you should have thought about your budget before making those commitments. A long silence stretched between us. When Aaron spoke again, his voice was cold. Fine. I see how it is. Blood means nothing to you. Don't come crying to me when you need family support. He hung up, leaving me staring at my phone. Something about his tone in those final words sent a chill down my spine. Aaron had always been dramatic, but there was something different this time. Something calculated. I tried to shake off the unease and return to work, but his words echoed in my mind. Our parents, Patricia and Gerald Cole, had always favored Aaron. As the youngest and only son, he could do no wrong in their eyes. I had learned early to be self-sufficient, but lately, their enabling of his behavior had become impossible to ignore. My phone buzzed with a text from our mother. Disappointed in your selfishness regarding Aaron's wedding. Family should support family. I stared at the message, feeling utterly alone. The next 2 weeks passed without contact from Aaron, which was unusual. Typically, after our arguments, he would call within days with some emergency that required my financial intervention. The silence felt ominous, like the calm before a storm. During this time, I threw myself into work. Bright Ridge Media was launching a major campaign for a tech startup, and the long hours provided a welcome distraction from family drama. My colleague Jennifer noticed my stress during our morning coffee meeting. You look exhausted, she said, studying my face with concern. Everything okay at home? Family issues, I replied, stirring my coffee absently. My brother wants me to fund his wedding, and when I refused, everyone acted like I committed a crime. Jennifer, who had known me for 5 years, shook her head. Vanessa, you're the most generous person I know. Remember when you paid for your brother's car repairs last year? And his emergency room bill the year before that? She was right. Looking back, I could see a clear pattern. Aaron would create a crisis, I would solve it financially, and then months later, another crisis would emerge. Our parents always backed him up, making me feel guilty for even questioning his requests. Maybe this boundary is long overdue, Jennifer said gently. That evening, I decided to review our grandmother's will again. Something had been nagging at me since Aaron's call. I pulled out the documents from my home safe and spread them across my dining room table. The will was straightforward, equal distributions to Aaron and me, with specific language about responsible stewardship of the funds. But as I read more carefully, I noticed a clause I had overlooked before. Any attempt by one beneficiary to coerce or defraud the other regarding their inheritance would result in forfeiture of their own portion. Grandmother had been sharper than any of us realized. She must have anticipated this exact scenario. My phone rang, interrupting my reading. It was my mother. "Vanessa, honey, Aaron wants to make amends," she said, her voice artificially bright. "He's planning a birthday dinner for you next Saturday at Romano's. Just family. He wants to apologize and move forward." I glanced at my calendar. My birthday was still 3 weeks away, but perhaps Aaron was genuinely trying to repair our relationship. "He specifically asked me to tell you how sorry he is," Mom continued. "You know how much family means to him. He just got carried away with wedding stress." Despite my reservations, I found myself agreeing. Maybe I had been too harsh. Maybe Aaron really did want to make things right. "Wonderful," Mom said. 7 p.m. Saturday. Aaron's so excited to see you." After hanging up, I tried to push away the nagging feeling that something was not quite right. The timing felt strange, and Aaron's sudden desire for reconciliation seemed out of character. But family was family, and perhaps this dinner would finally put our issues to rest. I had no idea I was walking straight into a trap. Saturday arrived gray and drizzling, matching my mood perfectly. I had spent the week trying to convince myself that Aaron's invitation was genuine, but doubt continued to gnaw at me. Still, I dressed carefully in a navy blazer and slacks, hoping to present a united front if we were truly going to reconcile. Romano's was an upscale Italian restaurant in downtown Kansas City, the kind of place Aaron typically claimed was too expensive for his budget. As I walked through the entrance, the hostess smiled warmly. "Miss Cole? Right this way. Your party is already seated in our private dining room." Private dining room? That seemed excessive for a simple family dinner. My unease deepened as we walked past the main dining area toward the back of the restaurant. The hostess opened a heavy wooden door, and I stepped inside expecting to see Aaron and our parents. Instead, I froze. Seated around a large conference table were Aaron, our parents, and 4 men in expensive suits I did not recognize. Papers were spread across the table, and everyone looked up at me with expressions that ranged from nervous to predatory. "Vanessa!" Aaron jumped up with an overly bright smile that did not reach his eyes. "Thanks for coming. Please, have a seat." "What's going on here?" I asked, remaining standing near the door. "Who are these people?" One of the suited men stood and extended his hand. "Miss Cole, I'm Attorney Douglas Harrison from Harrison, Wells and Associates. These are my colleagues, Attorney Peterson, Attorney Wallace, and Attorney Brooks." 4 lawyers. My brother had brought 4 lawyers to what was supposed to be a family birthday dinner. "I don't understand," I said, though a cold realization was beginning to form in my stomach. Aaron's fake smile faltered slightly. "Vanessa, we need to talk about grandmother's inheritance. There are some legal issues that need to be resolved." "What legal issues?" I demanded, my voice sharper than intended. Attorney Harrison gestured to the chair across from him. "Perhaps you should sit down. This is a complex matter regarding the proper administration of estate funds." I remained standing, my hands clenched at my sides. "I want to know what this is about before I sit down anywhere." Aaron exchanged a look with our father, who cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Sweetheart, Aaron has discovered some irregularities in how the inheritance was distributed. The lawyers need your cooperation to fix things." "What irregularities?" I asked, my voice rising. "The inheritance was split equally, exactly as grandmother specified." Attorney Harrison opened a folder and pulled out several documents. "Miss Cole, there are concerns about your fitness to manage your portion of the estate. Your brother has documentation suggesting you may be making irresponsible financial decisions that could endanger the family legacy. The room seemed to spin around me. They were questioning my fitness. I was the one who had managed my inheritance responsibly, while Aaron had squandered his. "This is insane," I whispered, finally understanding the true nature of this birthday dinner. Aaron leaned forward, his mask finally dropping completely. "Just sign the papers, Vanessa. Make this easy on everyone." Attorney Harrison slid the documents across the table toward me with practiced precision. "These papers establish a conservatorship that would place your inheritance under professional management for the protection of all parties involved." I picked up the top document, my hands trembling with rage rather than fear. The legal language was complex, but the intent was crystal clear. They wanted me to sign over control of my inheritance to a financial management company that, according to the fine print, was partially owned by Aaron. "You have got to be kidding me," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. Attorney Peterson, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses, leaned forward. "Miss Cole, your recent financial decisions have raised red flags. Your refusal to contribute to family obligations, combined with reports of erratic spending patterns, suggest you may not be capable of managing such a substantial sum responsibly." "Erratic spending patterns?" I laughed, a harsh sound in the formal dining room. "What are you talking about?" Aaron cleared his throat. "Vanessa, you bought that expensive car last year, and you've been taking those trips to Europe. It shows a pattern of frivolous spending." I stared at my brother in disbelief. The expensive car was a certified pre-owned sedan I had purchased after my old car died, and I had researched it for months to find the best value. The trips to Europe were a single vacation to London that I had saved for over 2 years. "Those are normal life purchases," I said. "Unlike blowing through a 6-figure inheritance in 18 months. "That's exactly the kind of defensive attitude that concerns us," Attorney Wallace chimed in. "The inability to see the problem is often the first sign of financial incompetence." Our mother reached across the table toward me. "Vanessa, honey, we're trying to help you. The money would be managed professionally, and you'd receive a monthly allowance. It's for your own good." A monthly allowance. From my own inheritance. The audacity was breathtaking. "And let me guess," I said, looking directly at Aaron. "You would be the primary beneficiary if something happened to me, since I obviously can't be trusted with money." Aaron's face flushed red. "This isn't about me. This is about protecting grandmother's legacy." "Grandmother's legacy?" I stood up so abruptly that my chair scraped loudly against the floor. "You burned through your entire inheritance on a sports car, a motorcycle, 2 luxury vacations, and God knows what else. Now you want mine too?" Attorney Harrison's voice took on a warning tone. "Miss Cole, I strongly advise you to consider the consequences of refusing to cooperate. Your brother has evidence of your financial irresponsibility, and the court system takes these matters very seriously." "What evidence?" I demanded. Aaron pulled out his phone and began scrolling through it. "Screenshots of your social media showing expensive dinners, designer clothes, that new laptop you bought. It all adds up to a pattern of reckless spending." I looked at the images he was showing the lawyers. A birthday dinner at a nice restaurant from 6 months ago. A professional blazer I had purchased for work presentations. A laptop I had bought to replace one that was 5 years old. Each purchase was reasonable and well considered, but Aaron was presenting them as evidence of financial irresponsibility. "You've been documenting my purchases?" I asked, feeling sick. "I've been concerned about you," Aaron said with fake sincerity. "The family has been worried." Our father finally spoke up. "Vanessa, just sign the papers. This doesn't have to be a fight." Attorney Harrison leaned back in his chair with confidence. "Miss Cole, I'll be frank with you. We have enough documentation to file for conservatorship, whether you cooperate or not. Your signature today would simply make the process smoother for everyone involved." "And if I refuse?" Then we'll see you in court, Aaron said, his mask of concern finally dropping completely. And trust me, you don't want that. These gentlemen are very good at what they do. The threat hung in the air like poison. I looked around the room at the faces of people who were supposed to love and support me, and saw only greed and manipulation. But as I stared at their confident expressions, something shifted inside me. They had made one crucial mistake. They assumed I was helpless. Attorney Harrison began arranging the papers in order, clearly expecting my compliance. Miss Cole, there are several documents that require your signature. The first establishes the conservatorship, the second transfers management authority to Kelwin Financial Services, and the third waives your right to contest the arrangement. I picked up the papers and pretended to read them carefully, buying myself time to think. The legal language was dense, but certain phrases jumped out at me. Irrevocable transfer, permanent management authority, and waiver of future claims. This seems awfully permanent for someone who's supposedly just being helped, I observed. Attorney Peterson adjusted his glasses. Financial conservatorships are designed to provide long-term stability. Short-term arrangements often fail to address the underlying issues. What underlying issues? I asked. I have a master's degree in business administration, I've never been late on a bill payment, and my credit score is over 800. Aaron shifted uncomfortably. Vanessa, your credit score doesn't matter if you're making poor decisions with large sums of money. Like refusing to fund your wedding? That's not what this is about, our mother interjected quickly, but her eyes avoided mine. I continued reading the documents, noticing several concerning details. Kelwin Financial Services would charge a 3% annual management fee. Aaron was listed as the primary contact for all decisions, and there was a clause allowing for emergency distributions to family members in times of crisis. How convenient, I murmured. Aaron would have access to emergency funds whenever he needed them. Attorney Wallace leaned forward. Miss Cole, you're focusing on irrelevant details. The important thing is ensuring responsible stewardship of your inheritance. Responsible stewardship, I repeated. Like how Aaron responsibly stewardshiped his inheritance by buying a $40,000 motorcycle. Aaron slammed his hand on the table. Enough! This is exactly the kind of behavior that proves you're not thinking clearly. You're being paranoid and hostile. I'm being realistic, I shot back. You brought 4 lawyers to ambush me because I wouldn't pay for your wedding. Now you want to steal my inheritance and dress it up as concern for my welfare. Attorney Harrison's voice turned cold. Miss Cole, I recommend you watch your language. Accusations of theft are serious matters that could result in defamation claims. The threat was clear, but something about his tone struck me as odd. Most legitimate lawyers would be more measured in their language, more professional. These men were trying too hard to intimidate me. Can I see your bar association credentials? I asked suddenly. The question seemed to catch them off guard. Attorney Peterson frowned. What? Your bar association credentials. I'd like to verify that you're all licensed attorneys before I sign anything. Aaron's face went pale. Vanessa, that's ridiculous. These are respected professionals. Then they won't mind showing me their credentials, I said, keeping my voice steady despite my racing heart. Attorney Harrison recovered quickly. Miss Cole, our credentials are a matter of public record. We don't carry physical identification. But you do carry business cards, I pointed out, and legitimate law firms have websites and phone numbers I can verify. The silence that followed was deafening. Our parents looked confused, Aaron looked panicked, and the 4 lawyers exchanged worried glances. This is absurd, Attorney Wallace said finally. We're trying to help you, and you're questioning our professionalism. I'm questioning everything about this situation, I replied, starting with why my supposed birthday dinner turned into a legal ambush. Aaron stood up abruptly. Fine. You want to do this the hard way? We'll file the conservatorship petition on Monday. These gentlemen have all the documentation they need. I looked at my brother with new clarity. This had been planned for weeks, possibly months. The phone call about the wedding had been a setup to create evidence of my irresponsibility, and this dinner was meant to be the final step in his scheme. But Aaron had underestimated me, and that was going to be his downfall. I set the documents down on the table and pulled out my phone, ignoring the looks of confusion around me. Before I sign anything, there's someone I need to call. Vanessa, that's not necessary, our mother said quickly. This is a family matter. Exactly, I replied, scrolling through my contacts, which is why I want my attorney to review these documents before I sign them. The color drained from Aaron's face. Your attorney? Yes, Aaron. Unlike you, I believe in getting proper legal advice before making important decisions. I found the number I was looking for and pressed call. Attorney Harrison tried to maintain his composure. Miss Cole, having another attorney review the documents will only delay the process unnecessarily. I'm sure it will, I said as the phone rang, but I've learned to be very careful about signing legal documents. The call connected, and I heard the familiar voice of Catherine Walsh, the attorney who had helped me with my house purchase 2 years earlier. Vanessa? This is unexpected for a Saturday evening. Catherine, I'm sorry to bother you, but I'm in a situation that requires immediate legal assistance. I'm at Romano's restaurant with my family and 4 men claiming to be attorneys who want me to sign conservatorship papers. There was a pause. Conservatorship papers? Vanessa, don't sign anything. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Aaron jumped up from his chair. This is ridiculous. We're trying to help you, and you're acting like we're criminals. Aren't you? I asked, looking him directly in the eyes. Our father finally seemed to grasp the seriousness of the situation. Aaron, maybe we should wait until everyone can calm down and discuss this rationally. No, Aaron said fiercely. She's going to sign these papers tonight, or we're filing the petition first thing Monday morning. Attorney Peterson tried a different approach. Miss Cole, involving another attorney will only create unnecessary complications and expense. These documents are straightforward. Then you won't mind waiting for my attorney to review them, I replied. The next 20 minutes felt like hours. The atmosphere in the room grew increasingly tense as we waited in uncomfortable silence. Aaron kept checking his phone and whispering to the supposed attorneys, while our parents sat looking bewildered and increasingly concerned. When Catherine arrived, she looked exactly like what she was, a legitimate attorney, professional but not flashy, carrying a briefcase and exuding the quiet confidence that comes from real expertise. Good evening, she said, scanning the room. I'm attorney Catherine Walsh. May I see the documents in question? Attorney Harrison reluctantly slid the papers across the table. Catherine began reading them immediately, her expression growing more severe with each page. This is interesting, she said after several minutes. These documents contain several irregularities that would never pass judicial review. What kind of irregularities? I asked, though I suspected I already knew. The conservatorship language is overly broad and lacks proper judicial oversight provisions. The financial management arrangement appears to violate state regulations for fiduciary services. And most telling, the signatures on the legal documents don't match the names printed below them. She looked up at the 4 men with cold professionalism. Gentlemen, may I see your bar association identification? The silence was deafening. Attorney Harrison cleared his throat. As we told Miss Cole, we don't carry physical identification. Then perhaps you'd be willing to provide your bar numbers so I can verify your credentials through the state database. More silence. Catherine smiled grimly. I thought so. Vanessa, these men are not licensed attorneys. This entire proceeding is fraudulent, and these documents are worthless. Aaron's face went white as his carefully constructed plan crumbled around him. The revelation hit the room like a bomb. Our parents stared at Aaron in shock, while the 4 fake lawyers began gathering their papers with obvious panic. Wait just a minute, Catherine said sharply, pulling out her phone. Nobody leaves until we sort this out. Attorney Harrison, or whoever he really was, tried to bluster his way out. "This is preposterous. Our credentials are completely legitimate." "Really?" Catherine said, typing rapidly on her phone. "Because according to the Missouri Bar Association database, there is no Douglas Harrison, Robert Peterson, James Wallace, or Michael Brooks registered as active attorneys in this state." Aaron finally found his voice. "There must be some mistake. These are respected professionals." "The only mistake," Catherine said coldly, "was assuming you could get away with this fraud." She looked directly at Aaron. "Do you have any idea how many laws you've broken tonight?" Our mother gripped the edge of the table. "Aaron, what is she talking about? What's going on?" "Mom, I can explain," Aaron began, but Catherine cut him off. "Mr. Cole, you've just attempted to defraud your sister out of her inheritance using fake attorneys and forged legal documents. This constitutes multiple felonies under Missouri law." The fake attorney Harrison made a move toward the door, but Catherine's voice stopped him. "I wouldn't recommend leaving, sir. I've already contacted the Kansas City Police Department. They should be here any moment." As if summoned by her words, we heard voices in the restaurant's main dining area. 2 uniformed police officers appeared in the doorway, looking professional but alert. "Officers," Catherine said. "I'm attorney Catherine Walsh. We have a situation involving attempted fraud and impersonation of legal professionals." Aaron slumped in his chair as the reality of his situation finally hit him. The 4 fake lawyers were already providing their real identities to the officers, and it was clear this scheme had gone far beyond anything they had expected. Our father stared at Aaron with a mixture of confusion and growing anger. "Son, what have you done?" "I just needed the money," Aaron whispered. His earlier confidence completely evaporated. As the police took statements from everyone in the room, the full scope of Aaron's plan became clear. The 4 men were actors he had hired through an online platform, paying them $500 each to impersonate attorneys for what he had told them was a prank on his sister. The legal documents were equally fraudulent, created using templates Aaron had found online and filled with official-sounding language that had no legal validity. The supposed Kelwin Financial Services was a shell company Aaron had registered just weeks earlier. "The premeditation here is extensive," Catherine explained to the police officers. "This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. Mr. Cole spent considerable time and money setting up this fraudulent scheme." Our parents sat in stunned silence as the officers took Aaron's statement. The brother I had grown up with, the son they had doted on, had just attempted to steal my inheritance through an elaborate con game. One of the officers approached me. "Miss Cole, given the evidence we've gathered tonight, we have grounds to arrest your brother on multiple charges, including attempted fraud, impersonation of legal professionals, and conspiracy." I looked at Aaron, slumped in his chair with his head in his hands. Part of me felt sorry for him, but a larger part of me felt a cold satisfaction. He had gambled everything on this scheme, and he had lost spectacularly. "What happens now?" I asked. Catherine answered for the officer. "Aaron will be arrested and charged. The district attorney will likely pursue this aggressively given the sophistication of the fraud. And Vanessa, you should know that under your grandmother's will, Aaron's attempt to defraud you means he forfeits any remaining claim to the inheritance." Aaron's head snapped up. "What?" "Your grandmother was very wise," Catherine said with grim satisfaction. "She included provisions for exactly this situation." The months that followed Aaron's arrest were a whirlwind of legal proceedings and family recriminations. He was ultimately convicted on multiple felony counts and sentenced to 3 years in prison, with additional restitution requirements. His employer, Coleman Real Estate, fired him immediately after the arrest became public. The real estate license he had worked years to obtain was revoked by the state board. Rebecca, his fiancée, broke off their engagement and returned the ring within a week of the scandal breaking. Our parents initially tried to defend Aaron's actions, claiming he had been desperate and made poor choices. But as the full extent of his deception became clear, including evidence that he had forged documents and lied to multiple people, they were forced to confront the reality of who their golden child had become. The shame and embarrassment devastated them socially, and they eventually moved to another state to escape the notoriety. The 4 actors who had impersonated attorneys received probation and community service, having been duped by Aaron just as much as anyone else. Their cooperation with prosecutors helped ensure Aaron received the maximum sentence. As I stood in the courthouse after Aaron's sentencing, watching him led away in handcuffs, I felt a complex mixture of emotions. There was satisfaction in seeing justice served, but also sadness for the destruction of our family. Catherine stood beside me, having guided me through every step of the legal process. "You handled this exactly right," she said quietly. "Your grandmother would be proud." I used a portion of my inheritance to establish the Patricia Cole Scholarship Fund, named after our grandmother, providing financial assistance to women pursuing legal education. It seemed fitting that Aaron's attempt to steal from me ultimately resulted in helping others seek justice. Looking back on that night at Romano's restaurant, I realized that Aaron's greatest mistake wasn't underestimating the law or overestimating his own cleverness. His greatest mistake was thinking I would be easy prey, simply because I had always been generous with family. He confused kindness with weakness, and that confusion cost him everything. Sometimes the best revenge isn't fighting dirty, it's fighting smart and letting the truth speak for itself.